Hello, everyone, and welcome to the UL Entrepreneurship Society's guest talk from Orla Foley. Orla Foley is a dear friend of mine, I'm very glad to say, and not only is she an entrepreneur in a very niche sector, but she's also got a range of qualifications in positive psychology. So I'm absolutely delighted that Orla tonight will be giving us a brief insight into these and into some interesting topics that aren't necessarily on our UL business curricula. So I shall shut up and leave it to the expert. Orla, it's an absolute pleasure and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you, Ben, for having me. And it's a very off topic from business studies, but it's actually about charity and using positive psychology for a journey, a camino. So I'm going to talk about my wild ways, and not as in the wild ways of my youth, but in the wild ways of the current pandemic. So out of the pandemic, my wild ways were born in memory of my brother Anthony Foley, who some of you may know died in 2016. So, what are you to do when a pandemic hits and all your weekends free up? You know, when you're used to having a busy social life and schedule. Sorry, now I'm just having a technical thing. I'm trying to get the screen off the top. Anyhow, okay. So this was a silver lining of the pandemic because I had all this time to spend, and I came up with an idea of cycling the Wild Atlantic Way because nothing else to do. So my brother always said I want to be remembered as a player who never gave up, and it kind of goes through me and my sister as well. We like to try things and set nice challenges. So I intend to cycle all 2,600 kilometers of the Wild Atlantic Way. I had originally hoped that it would be finished by May, and then it's moved to July, then August. And now I'm accepting it might not happen till the end of October, but whatever way it's meant to happen, it's going to all be perfect. And it's great to have this to focus on, something positive. So this isn't my first rodeo. After Anthony died in 2016, I cycled the Camino from the south of France to Santiago de Compostela in the spring of 2017. So in about 12 days, we cycled 980 kilometers. And the challenge was actually bigger than you think, because not alone was I heartbroken, I had a broken body. So following a serious horse riding accident in the January of 2017, I was only able to decide a week before I traveled in March if I was fit to go. So each step of that journey was taken one day at a time and seeing how I would feel the next day. And also my friend was grieving for his marriage breakup, and his friend had recently died. And each day of that trip, I got stronger. So I left frail and broken, and I came back as strong and fit like Xena the warrior princess. So the beauty of the nature of the north of Spain and the food, the companionship, all helped heal my soul. My only regret about that Camino was some areas were so beautiful that I'd have loved to stay longer and savor them. Yet the clock was on for my return flight on that Easter Thursday. So I had always said I would go back. So waiting to go back, the Camino was born for Ireland of the Wild Ways, because we can't go back for a while. So the wonderful charities of which I am raising the money for are ones very close to my heart. Cry, who have supported my family and were recently on the Late Late on Friday night. They provide this amazing service of screening families that are at risk from sudden adult death, which Anthony died of, and now provide bereavement counselling. And then Carrie, a friend of mine's on the board, and I'd heard about the wonderful work they've been doing for years, who provide support services for sexually abused children. The Midwestern Cancer Foundation, who provide free holistic therapies and support for cancer patients in the Midwest. And Anthony was on the board of this charity. It was one very close to his heart. So far, I have actually cycled just one of the 8 counties, and I really enjoyed it and savoured it. And the whole emphasis of the journey was using positive psychology, which I had the privilege of taking a module of in UL and studying more about it later. online with Coursera and a few other resources, which I'll share at the end of the talk. So what I'm asking of you, the listeners, if you could please follow my different Facebook page is Orla's Wildways, Instagram page, which is Orla's Wildways. There's a theme. And on my own website, orlafoley.com, there's an about section with Orla's Wildways, and there's donate there, or you can go through I Donate. And so far, incredibly, thanks to you and many other generous donors, we've over 3,500 already raised, which far exceeds what I had hoped at the start of this journey. I had thought if I'd that raised by the end of it, I'd have been happy. So to have been only 1/8 of the way through the challenge and have that, it's amazing. So thank you. So positive psychology is, instead of studying what makes people unwell, scientists actually went and studied what makes people well. So they studied people who showed high well-being scores in their lifestyle choices. And then they also study neuroscience to see how our brains work. So it might be surprising to know that it takes 15 to 20 seconds for anything positive to go into your imprint, into your nervous system. And that is really savoring, looking at every element of the flower, really absorbing the different colors, the textures, how it makes you feel, and really just stopping. And everything we do in life, from sunsets to happy, joyous moments, we really have to be conscious and savor them. Make it our practice to savor. Because the negatives are like little mosquitoes. They just go straight in. There's no filter. They're just in like Flynn, because we're programmed for survival. And our body hasn't differentiated between a predator at the cave door and our boss or our lecturer looking for our assignment to be handed in. So it's all about the mind gym and learning how to be well in yourself. And it's all in your hands. So a simple exercise, which my lecturer had us do, and I've done it on this journey, is a gratitude journey. Wherever you're going, you literally have gratitude for what got you there. How we're even on this computer on Zoom, the engineers, the people that got the computer. So for my Wildways, one of my gratitude journeys was for the person who designed my bike, the miner who mined the metals, the ship who carried it, all the different parts, the logistics, the mechanics who assembled it, my friend who services my bike, the farmer who grew the rubber, the engineer who extracted the oil for their bike and the plastic water bottles, the helmet, the glasses, the designers who designed my cycling gear, the cows who first walked the paths that became the roads which I cycled upon, the county council and the workers who build and maintain the roads and I cycle on. And I totally forgot about the taxpayers who pay for it. They're very important. To the motorists who give me enough space and respect, thanks for honouring my life. To the app designers who help me navigate the roads, sometimes to dead ends of adventures. To the software engineers who brought me the media that I can raise the money and the awareness, and for inspiring gratitude and to be able to record and inspire gratitude, my journey in memory of my big brother. To my big brother who continues to inspire me, may he rest peacefully. To my Wildways crew who support and provide car and cycle support, food, hot drinks, and laughs along the way. Tony and Betty Hurley for their generous support with beautiful necklaces and other gratitudes. To my friends, family, and to all you for your continued support, spreading the words to help me help these charities and spread positive psychology. And this is an exercise you might want to do after yourself. And I'd love to read it when you do it. So if you want to email, just orlafoley@gmail.com or through any of the other things, I would really love to see what you've been inspired to write, because I'll be grateful for your gratitude. So weekend 1. So the idea was born in the end of September, and by the 9th and 10th of October, I was out in my Wildways And I got a beautiful, before getting in for a swim, I got to savor these dancing foam, and I'd never seen foam dance like it, and it was really magic, and it just really, nearly like savoring the barking dog at my door. So it's about the changing scenery. Life is not a journey. Life is the journey, not the destination. I have this hanging in my kitchen, so it's a great mantra to live under. So in the space of a few hours cycling the Wild Atlantic Way, I moved from beautiful horseshoe bays to ragged cliffs to lighthouses, towns and seaside. Stepping back in time to monastic settlements or breathtakingly otherworldly UNESCO Bern landscape, looking at the big imposing cliff stacks and lighthouses and stopping to admire the beautiful rare flora and fungi and to smell the roses. Within, you can feel all the spectrum of emotions, from sheer joy and freedom of the bike to the gratitude to those who produce the roads, the bikes, the produce we eat, to the sorrow and remembering my dead brother on his favorite beach on his anniversary, stopping to get to pose with llamas and remembering the first time I saw them in the Andes many trips ago. So it was just amazing. Such a beautiful journey and moving. And that's each shifting landscape externally, internally serves to remind me that the only constant in life is change, and resistance to change, as I learned after Anthony died, is what causes pain and suffering. So presence is the present, and gift yourself now. Need my very glamorous cycling gear, well wrapped up. So Kilkee to Loophead and on to Kilrush was the first cycle, and even leaving Killaloe was lovely. There was lovely Garda out here at Bird Hill, and they were so sweet. And luckily I live in Clare, so I was able to travel within Clare at this stage. And it only dawned on me, as Ben will tell you, how I'm only learning about social media and marketing and learning. So I was like, oh, I better set up a fundraising page and doing this on the fly. So there was a few typos and stuff like that, which people were very happy to point out, which made me laugh, that people pay more attention than I do at times. And everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. So I really savor any corrections or any gentle nudges that would make something look better for me on this journey. You know, we all need help, and I'm open to correction and guidance. So thanks to anyone who has ever done that for me. So my support car and her husband arrived, and we headed off to the Bridge of Ross, which I'd never actually really known about. And it's beautiful if you ever get a chance, along tiny little roads, because I knew it might be a while before I got out of Clare. I was really savouring and going every little byway. And one of the roads that Google brought us down gifted us with a beautiful section of road that was so bad we had to actually carry our bikes for 500 meters and dodge craters then for about another kilometers that you would lose a small child in. But we were rewarded for the most amazing cliffs I'd never even known existed. It's very similar to the cliffs of Moher, just smaller, just hidden along that little higgledy section of the road, just there west of Kilbaha. And then we met our support car at Loophead and had the most divine healthy picnic, and it was great. And then we had an amazing walk out by Loophead. Have you been to Loophead, Ben?
Reaching for the mute. Have I been to Loophead? It has been about 6 years, I think, since I've been to Loophead. It's definitely on. Well, I'm going to put it on my list now for when we're allowed to travel beyond 5K. Because it's an absolutely gorgeous spot.
It's just amazing. Like next stop, America. It's just phenomenal, and then you can see all the way down through Kerry and up the coast. Just it's magic. And then even the cycle back through Kilbaha and onto Carrigaholt, it's just really a hidden part of the country I hadn't known that well. And I was actually in need of the ladies, and that could be one of the challenges of this adventure, is finding a toilet. So luckily there was a pub in Carrigo Holt that has a shop, an old-fashioned pub that has a shop out front. So that was a gift. And then we cycled on to Kilrush, and it was only at that very end of the day we just got a light spit of rain. So it was a real gift. And this is here at Loophead Lighthouse. And then the next stop the next day was actually Scattery Island. And have you been to Scattery Island, Ben?
No, that I haven't.
It is absolutely amazing, and I can't believe it took me all these years on Earth to actually get there. It is just one of Ireland's hidden gems. It's pure magic. It's this beautiful monastic settlement in the middle of the Shannon Estuary, similar to Holy Island here in Lough Derg, and it was occupied up to the 1970s when the last remaining residents moved into Kilrush. So there was breathtaking views and the scenery, and I was just blown away. The whole estuary was just so divine. A slight issue though was that the ferry wasn't running because of the pandemic. So what do? You borrow a friend's rib, and off we went. Thank God for good friends. See, always ask for help when you need it. So
the power of networking as well.
Yeah. The Shannon Estuary proved to be a hidden gem, and the cycle up to Clare Castle was very pleasurable, much to my surprise, because I didn't think the Kilrush section onwards would be anything, and it was really amazing. So the gift of basing this whole journey on positive psychology principles was the permission to stop, savor, smell the roses on Scattery Islands, admire the wild fauna and fungi, and just actually be present. And we ended up spending a half a day in Scattery. You know, it was just that amazing. So there's the lovely blue rib. There's Scattery Island. You can see Money Point over to the right of the picture. And what amazes me is, you know, there you have the monastic settlement, which is historical. It's no longer in use. And soon enough, Money Point is going to be the same. It's going to be another historical monument of the time when we burned fossil fuel for energy. It'll be nearly as barbaric as bloodletting. And then one of the really lovely things about positive psychology is mindfulness, and actually stopping and seeing the different patterns and looking at things differently. And even the lynching that's on this is just a really good symbol. It shows how healthy the air is on the island of Scattery. That's always a really good sign of environmental health. I love this. This was the most beautiful fungi I'd ever seen. I've never seen anything as intricate. And if I hadn't been on a positive psychology journey, I would have walked past this. You know, it's great when your intention is set clear of how you want to live your life and go through the journey of life. You just really get to see things that you might otherwise miss. And by the time we came back from Scattery, we were literally blissed. You know, that feeling like when you're on a sailing ship and it's all easy. So the following weekend was increased restrictions. We're coming with the lockdown, as we've seen them on and off. And it was actually Anthony's 4th anniversary. So with the increased restriction, I wasn't afforded the opportunity to be able to watch the anniversary mass, or as I had a typo in earlier, match with my family. So I headed to the coast. And it was perfect for me because I love journeys and perfect headspace. And, you know, some people get really great peace and get a lot out of what formulated religion. I get a lot out of Mother Nature. Mother Nature is my religion, really. I just love, and I really feel renewed. And actually the science will show you the benefits of time spent in nature. And there's even benefits for people who follow an organized religion. You know, there's good studies on the positive psychology of it. So whatever works for you, You know, if you find you get great out of a church, brilliant. If you find you get more out of nature, fantastic. Neither is right or wrong. It's what's for you, and nature is for me. The weather was glorious. It felt so blessed to actually be out west and out at the coast. I actually felt free despite the increasing restrictions. It was such an amazing moment to be in. And I'd never been to Doonbeg Resort, which was one of Anthony's favourite holiday destinations. So it was my first time to visit. Except I was following Google Maps. So Google Maps brought me down a road that looked like you could get there, but it ended up being a dead end with a lot of mud through a farm at the back of the dunes, where I carried my bike over the mud, and then I reached a river which I had to take off my shoes and socks and roll up and wade through carrying the bike, much to the amusement of the walkers passing by, going, what in the Lord's name is she doing? And yet it felt perfect. It really did. And it was amazing. Like, it is a beautiful beach. Can't believe I'd never been there before. And, you know, really connecting to somewhere that was special to Anthony. And I could really feel his energy there the day that was in it, and the joy and all the happy family memories he had with his boys and his wife there. It was magical. And literally, as I sat down at which I later learned was bog, because it's a bog beach, I sat down on a piece of bog, and this amazing light filled my being. And I really just never felt serenity as well as sorrow. And I just felt so close, and so blessed and full of gratitude I could be there. And then after spending a while there and having my lunch and just really taking it all in, having a few tears, I had a lovely cycle to Quilty and then back to Kilkee. And there I honoured my sister. I hopped in the sea for a sundown swim, because my sister's a bit of a mermaid, as you know. And it felt nice, the yin and the yang. So this is Doonbeg Resort, which a lot of people probably has never seen, because they've never been taken down that road. I had to go, and it was spectacular. And I love Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She was the first that brought us the different stages of grief and studied them. So basically, live your life so that, you know, you won't think you've ever wasted it. And it's hard now, especially for your generation, Ben, you know, your college years, you know, of such empathy. Like, I got to have my Wildways. You're being restricted, you know, so really make the most of what you have now and just come out of this pandemic the best version of you. You know, we all have choices, and knowing what's best for you and what works for you, whether it's a lifestyle choice. You know, if something takes your energy and you're stuck on a couch for a day after it, or if you eat food and you just feel like a beach whale after it, that's robbing your life from you. You know, really learn how to nourish and nurture your soul and listen to your needs, because only you know what works for you. So just more coming out of Doonbeg. And then I just did a little axolate. AGF is Anthony's initials. And obviously shadows. And my wonderful lecturer and dear friend told me once, you don't ever get over grief. You learn to walk with it. And I really feel this journey is about walking with it as well, and just honouring it. So then the next day I was blessed. My support car is my birthday twin. She was meant to be down sharing the apartment with me, but with the increased restrictions, she could only come down for a day, because the whole emphasis of this whole journey is trying to honour and follow the guidelines, which we all have to do. You know, that's life that we choose to live. So we enjoyed exploring slowly, you know, from Spanish Point, White Strand, all the way up to Lahinch. and it's spectacular. And there's something amazing about, and I've only learned it on this trip, cycling when you have a support car. It's great. You don't have to think about having your energy for cycling back. You can just keep cycling and cycling. So this was one of those days where I had a support car and I really felt the freedom and enjoyed that, because you're not in a rush. And if you get tired or get cold, someone's got your back. I even got to see a new view that I'd never seen as you come into Lahinch, because I've driven that way loads of times, but and that's the beauty of being on the bike. And because of that impeding feel of increased lockdowns coming, it had that sort of feel of people grabbing a last minute swim before further restrictions, getting out for that coast walk. There was just a buzz, that uncertainty, because I think it was that Monday they were letting us know what was coming in. So shops were selling off clothes, and I brought a lovely Aran knit merino wool cardigan as a treat. Then up from there, I don't know if you've ever been to Bridget's Well on the way to Cliffs of Moher. It's this really sweet, goes back to our pagan Celts. And then the Catholic Church came and would have married all the old pagan festivals with different wells. And so people hang lovely memorial and of loved ones. It's really nice, special, magic place. And it was really nice to be there. And I'd forgotten that, because it's been a while since I was there. The Cliffs of Moher are, as ever, breathtaking and beautiful. There's nothing, you could keep talking and talking about them, but the only thing with the cliffs is just to be there and stand. And I was amazed at all the extra safety precautions, because when I was young, you could just go right up to the edge and you could drive right up there. And it's interesting to see. You wonder how we ever survived. And then I got to get all the way to Doolin on that trip, again, because I had the support car, and it was magical. Just as I was getting to where the ferry goes to the Aran Islands, you could hear people laughing and swimming. Again, the last of the summer sort of feeling to it. Loads of people just out for their evening swim. It's fabulous. And there's the cliffs. Oh yeah, that was St. Bridget's Well, back over there in case you're ever looking. So then I had the Sunday all to myself, and I got to start in Doolin. It was lovely. There was a lovely little COVID wedding, and it was lovely to see people celebrating and having their small little party, but really enjoying their moment. And I didn't actually get to the Doolin Caves. It was closed, but it's something I'd like to go back to. I'd never seen it before. And then coming up from Doolin, like every time I come down and I see that view of the burn, my heart stops. It's just, nothing is ever prepares you for the beauty of the burn. It's just, even on I was blessed, the weather was glorious today. I was there. But even on a wet day, I've been there. It's just, there's a reason it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's just, we're so blessed to have this on our doorstep. And it was great to have time to stop and take pictures. And one of the great gifts of not being in a rush, sometimes when you're cycling on a tour, you want to go A to Z. I actually had time to look around and stop, and I got to see the llamas, and it was amazing, because last time I saw llamas and I was that close to them, I was in the Andes, many thousands and thousands of miles, and here they were just standing proud on the burn. So, and it was great. You met different people along the way, and everyone had time to chat and wanted to chat, and obviously socially distanced, but it was lovely. There was and that's another silver lining of this time. People are open to connecting and checking in with each other, just total strangers. We're so blessed that we have that spirit within us. It's really been highlighted in the last 12 months. And then getting to Ballyvaughan, because I have friends who live there, and their setup is great. You can swim out the back. And they have a garden where we was able to have a socially distant barbecue, and they had an outdoor shower unit and everything. So it was great to be like legit and able to enjoy that magic moment before heading back to Doolin. And I just, like, where would you get it? It's just magic. This was my treat. And as I mentioned at the start to you, Ben, before we came on, like, it's been such a gift getting to revisit all this because it brings me back there. And that's the great thing about time. It exists in such a different way that you can always be transported. So I'd been to Ballyvaughan before and doing the Tour de Burn with a friend cycling. And I was so used to, Anthony loved Monks, and it's a family favourite, and it's actually closed at the moment for renovations. And I had discovered New Quay on that Tour de Burn, which is a beautiful restaurant, but I'd never heard of the Flaggy Shore. And I didn't know that's where New Quay is. But once you go past that lovely restaurant, there's this whole other hidden part of Ireland you could easily miss. And I'm definitely going to go back there. It was just beautiful. Seamus Heaney has written a famous poem about it. It's
Yeah,
very,
my Leaving Cert biology trip brings back all those memories. Yeah,
it's amazing. It
yeah,
just,
it's a
and it's not
fabulous place.
talked about. It's just a real hidden gem. And then I got to the Galway border. Now, wasn't quite sure I might have breached restrictions because there isn't a clear line. Like when you get to the Limerick border, you can stop. It says you are now entering Limerick. No such thing with Clare and Galway. They just kind of. So we tried our best to stop, and I'm sure no one would hold a few hundred meters.
No, definitely not. And sure, that stretch, I think it's more curved and more wavy, that borderline, than anything else. So yeah, no, you definitely wouldn't be blamed for going through that spaghetti junction.
Yeah. So and I laughed, even though the weather was promised bad that day. We actually ended up having really good weather, and we only got a little spit of a little winter shower just before we finished. So I really felt blessed, and loads of gratitude. And
You've
I was actually
fantastic luck with the
dressed
weather so far.
like I was very blessed, which was the intention of this whole journey, was to do it in good weather. And as I said later on in the slides, I had hoped to go out and be able to enjoy good weather, but I'm actually thinking any weather I'd enjoy at this stage to get out. And it's amazing how we evolve and move as time goes. Like I was dressed like a Michelin man that day. I had like 2 cycle jackets on, base layer t-shirt, a ski jacket. I looked like this size, and two bottoms of the layer. But needs must. You know, it's not a runway in Paris, so these are my Flaggy Shore beauties. Looking at us going, are you nuts? It was fairly windy, but it was beautiful. And then just when they started opening up, we had a level 3 at the start of December. So we got to the Sunday was obviously, the Saturday was the north of Clare to the border, and then the Sunday was to Limerick, and that was beautiful. It was really mystical for going around where all the castles are. This beautiful, dry, mystical, foggy day, and cold and crisp. And we went a route less travel because I'm trying to go as close to the coast. And there's actually no wild Atlantic way there, but we navigated, and it was beautiful, really lovely, otherworldly type of landscape, and particularly compared to the day before. So Google Maps again strikes, and we got all the way to Shannon Airport, and it was shown that we had a road there, but the road was the runway. so we had to do a little bit of back on ourselves, which was great for a laugh, because this time not alone had my friend's husband, I had another friend, because we were so close to home, he was able to cycle with us, you know, it just suited. So we had a good laugh. And there's like this little pub that we've threatened to cycle back to, that I'd say stories from the airport staff, but it was a really dead end road. Then I had a lovely cycle to Bunratty, and I always love Bunratty. Like, even you live in this area, Bunratty's our school tours, Lynch is our school tours, the Burn. but there's something magical about Bunratty. And then we had a small section on the dual carriageway, which we time trialed because cars were going very fast, and I'd be averaging sort of 19, 20k on my cycles. So I'm just very pedestrian. But I'd say my average was up to 30 for that section, if not higher. Could have been higher. But that was a bit of fun as well. And then back to Cratloe, which is lovely, that old Cratloe road. I've never cycled. I don't even know if I've ever driven it. And that was really nice because I wasn't expecting much from that, and a very well delineated border crossing, which we stayed on the Clare side of. So, and as you're probably getting from me, if I have to go out and repeat Clare, I'd happily do it. So I might do it north to south this time, you know, depending on, because I don't see restrictions lifting for me to get to Cork or Kerry anytime soon. But I'd be happy to get out, and I could just keep going up and down the Clare coast. So this is me at the gates of Shannon. Thank you, Mr. Google. So patience has been a lifelong quest of mine. So I think I'm finally getting it. Or maybe you say that and then you challenge yourself. So it's all about moving goalposts and just moving with it, and literally just accepting the changes and rolling. And I have an exciting project where Barry Murphy of Hermitage Green, who played with Anthony with Munster in Ireland, he wrote a beautiful song called Alone You Stand. We'd hoped to be releasing that in around Easter, but unfortunately studios are closed, so it's going to be later on in the year. There's a very exciting raffle and auction, which again are delayed. But the real gift of this whole charity fundraiser has been, you know, the amazing generosity of people, the amount of help I've got, the amount of positive goodwill, not just with donations, but sharing of ideas, sharing of skills. And they're just so open-hearted and kind, and it really fills you up. It's just, it's magic. I am so blessed to have been inspired to come up with this idea. It is a lot of work and, you know, everything, but it's worth it. It really is. And that's the great thing about it, is that having something positive in this time to plan and look forward to. Like, I'm happy, like the thoughts of cycling the Wild Atlantic Way over the summer. I have a caravan, so it's going to be wonderly wagon. And it's great to have something positive to talk about with people. So a direction in life helps, and a goal, and actually all the positive psychology principles, you know, gratitude and savoring, really just really enrich life and has enriched this journey. So for the moment, I'm savoring the wonderful 5K within me here in Kiely, which I am blessed, and so are you, Ben. We have an amazing 5K. 5K brings me to the top of the highest mountain in Clare. So yeah, lots of gratitude. This is a conversation I've had with Ben. Is like, I need help marketing myself. I don't know what to do. And when I started, and this was another gift of COVID, is I was locked down in the first lockdown, and I had time to learn about marketing. When I could have, I was going, I could be Dawson. I could go back to my old college days and just like unwind. But no, I thankfully decided to learn a bit about marketing. And I've just recently launched my new website, www.orlafoley.com. And having this memorial cycle has actually really helped me with marketing myself, because my willingness to share the videos and the vlogs and share the journey actually made it much easier to talk about and sell what I do at work. And I did lovely videos after that, because it was almost like training. If I was willing to do it for charity, why wasn't I willing to do it for myself? So it definitely, and it was really when I started learning about marketing, I just realized I just had this, I don't know, I think a lot of Irish people might have it, just the inability to sell what we have. And it's not like I'm trying to hard sell people. Like, if you're interested in supporting a charity and the charities resonate with you, you will support it. But if not, you might say, oh, that's a lovely idea. And that's fine. And the same with what I offer as a therapist. If you want craniosacral or Bowen technique, you'll be interested and you'll buy. But if you don't, you go, oh, that's interesting. You know, whereas I also trying to sell yourself was putting, you know, trying to force people to buy. Whereas, yeah, so it's been great. And I really have to thank my Wildways for helping me on this. So I've already said amazing 3,500, the wonderful people who've come on and helped. And I am still looking for ideas on fundraising. And I'm also looking for ideas for sponsors, because with the delay in that song, Regeneron kindly have donated half the cost of bringing out that CD, because we want everything from that single to go to the charities, as opposed to the production costs having to be taken out. So I am very open to ideas about sponsorship, about ideas of how to give people more value for their money while we're raising money for good causes. So please, anything you want to share, I'm open ears. So as you get, we grew up doing a lot for charity. Actually, my first memory was my dad doing a cycle charity around the lake here, Loch Derg. And it's just something that was natural within our family that we always did. But when I started studying positive psychology, I realized why you do it. Because charity is not about other people, it's about you. Because what you get when you do something for charity, you're enriched so much. And all the research will show one of the key attributes of someone who scores high in well-being and wellness is volunteering and charity work. Now, it doesn't have to be a charity like this. It could be volunteering at your local GAA club, or, you know, it's whatever you feel inclined to give, but it's really good for your being and you really learn and grow from it. And then we're all been moving at the moment, a lot of people in survival, but like applying positive psychology principles, you're learning to learn how to thrive and to flourish and actually just blossom. Like, and that's what blew me away about the rare fauna that you saw on Scattery Island or in the Burn. They're such bleak, barren, weathered places, and yet such beauty can flourish. And we have that opportunity in this time to flourish. And stuff that will help you flourish is like, we've got a mind, we've got a body, and we've got a spirit. You really have to do the looking after the mind with the meditation and the mind gym, as I call positive psychology, yoga, eating well, exercising well, and even what you watch, what you're letting into, what you listen to. Just be really critical about what you want to be letting into your energy field. Really, really stand at your door of your energy and decide what you're going to allow in and what you're not going to allow in. You know, it is your life. Giving and receiving with gratitude. You're getting gratitude comes up a lot. And the more you practice gratitude, the more you want it, the more you actually feel it and becomes second nature. Asking for help when we need it. So if you can help me, I'd love you to follow the Wildways on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And again, as I already said, share any ideas. And perhaps you'll be inspired to follow your heart and come up with a charity idea that is in your heart. So thanks for helping me remember my brother. And the journey begins, and it is never ending. Like, this is about the Wildways, but it's really the journey of life. You know, this is here within my 5K. This is just more on the page. One of my favorite pictures of Anthony. A mother be giving out that he didn't shave. I think it covers him. You know, that was us doing stuff for one of the charities already. So this is a free resource. So these are loads of amazing. I only found out about the first one today. The Royal College of Surgeons have this on. A positive psychology and health science of well-being. And then Coursera, which for ye students, if you haven't heard of Coursera, you need to know about it. It's amazing. So many free resources, like from programming to robotics to linguistics, it's just an amazing free resource. And Barbara Fredrickson is one of the lead positive psychology researchers, and she's amazing. I really love this. And Martin Seligman, who's actually a founder of positive psychology, and Yale offer free positive psychology science of well-being course. And there's a load more. The first link that I have there has just all the different ones under it. And edX is another great resource that you can find all these similar types of college courses. So there's no excuse unless you choose not to learn how to be well and enjoy life, but that's your choice. Or you could choose to. So that's it. I'm waiting to get on my Wildways, and that's the only constant in life. This is back in our beautiful Killaloe, in the beautiful nature. So I shall just, you've some Q&As for me now, Ben.
Oh, absolutely. Of course I do. Well, you'll be delighted to know that one of the sections that I was going to cover, I have absolutely no questions left because you have covered them all in such great depth there. So, no, that's a really, really good talk. Thank you so much, Orla. I suppose one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, kind of relating back to something that we've kind of talked about, not necessarily in this call, but in previous conversations about a topic called mental reframing. And it's something that I've looked into a little bit, and I think it's something that will be very interesting and possibly of interest to those who are on this call. So, do you want to explain that a little bit?
Mental reframing. The easiest way to mental reframing is literally what's the positive you're getting out of something, because it's all negative. Like if you take the last year, our lives, we've lost our free will about going around our daily life, getting out, doing what we want. We have to follow restrictions, which is our free will, we choose to follow. But then we have to think, okay, that's not exactly wonderful. But what is wonderful about it? Well, people have time to stop and talk to each other. People have time to reset and actually have a bit more time to catch up with themselves, catch up with their family. People have time to actually be creative and realize who they are and what they are and what really makes them tick. A lot of people have time to learn about diet or marketing. So that's a reframe. You could just say it's all just crap. It's just not great. But a positive reframe is actually, okay, what's good in this? What's the possibility? You could even go up to the macro where you say, well, the earth is getting to heal. Pollution levels have dropped. We've all learned those big commutes to Dublin, which many people did from all over the country on a daily basis, doesn't need to happen. All those business away to America and Europe, all those business trips don't need to happen. There's a lots of silver linings, and it's just learning to reframe, and that's where I call it the mind gym. Or a very good friend of mine, he's an amazing man. If you ever get to read him or attend one of his workshops, Declan Coyle, he has got a very simple thing called the green platform. And the green platform is all about that moment. It's like coming up to a traffic light. And when the traffic light goes amber, you have a choice. It's the space, it's the moment that you can either go red. Oh me, why is this happening? Poor me, what's happening? Oh, why does this always happen to me? This is just so unfair. I don't want to play in life. Or you have that moment where you just go, okay, this isn't exactly as I planned, but what can I get from this? How can I grow? What's this stopping me from doing? Where can I go from this? What's my opportunities? How can I grow? And really just taking that moment. And it's every time you see a traffic light, you'll be reminded that you just have that moment to pause before you react to anything and decide, do you want to be a red platform person moaning and groaning, or do you want to be that positive and inspiring person? And the only person you're trying to actually impress is yourself, because we talk to ourselves more than we talk to anyone else. And that self-talk dialogue that you say to yourself and how you talk to yourself in your head is what you hear most. So learning how to impress yourself with being positive and inspiring. And yeah, it's okay. Some days you can have a bad day. That's okay. We're all entitled to have a bad day. Like, positive psychology isn't about going, oh, it's all wonderful. You know, it's not. It's about learning to see the wonder in life again. It's the wonder in any situation, and just having a moment. And we're all entitled to have bad moments and feel them. You know, you have to acknowledge them.
Orla, I might stop you for a second. I don't know if there's music going on your side, but it's getting a little bit harder to hear you with when the
Sorry.
person is singing.
Yeah.
No, just I know with this recording, it with the audio quality would go down. But
Okay.
continue on there. Just what you were saying.
No, that's it. That's it. You had me
All right.
covered anyway. That was a good interlude.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say to somebody who maybe is looking to set up a business in, say, not your traditional STEM or not your traditional kind of retail or whatever, there's a little passion that you have and you're not sure about those first steps. I mean, Kincora Therapy is a fantastic example of, a business that has not only, launched very successfully, but you've pivoted as well. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
That's easy. When I
Yeah.
started out, Ben, I just graduated physical therapy and I was setting up as my physio practice. And I had encountered craniosacral. We did outreach in Romania, working in an orphanage, and I'd encountered craniosacral and Reiki there for the first time, and I saw how profoundly effective it was with kids. And luckily, I had an opportunity to learn it as part of my final year in physical therapy. But I just knew I needed more. There was more. I really wanted to deep dive, and I really wanted to go study with the best. Thomas Attlee and in London, and everyone thought I was nuts because I'd just got a business loan, set up my little practice here in Kiely, and went off and spent this fortune studying in London while starting up my business, and it didn't make sense to anyone else but me. And it was one of the most pivotal, best decisions I ever made in my life, and it changed the course of my life. Like the personal development, the changes in me, the healings that happened in that 12 months over in London, like it was over and back. It was money best spent and listening to my inner guidance. Nobody knows your journey except you. You know, your path is your path, and you really have to get that self-love, self-trust, self-guidance, because all the most inspired, like look at the Strike Boys, like they're just amazing. You know, they just march to their own band. And some of the best sports people I know never fitted. Like if you look at Usain Bolt's biomechanics, technically he shouldn't have been the best sprinter in the world, but he was. Because, you know, you make your own story and you write your own lines. And if it feels right here and it's inspired, just follow your inspirations. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else but you.
That's absolutely beautifully put, and I think you may have indirectly answered my next question. Well, we'll stick away from the field of sport maybe for a second, but say in the grander scope of things, if you had to look at one leader, who would you say is that one person you always look up to, and is there any particular reason why?
I always loved Nelson Mandela. He just resonated with me. And I suppose it was one of my first trips was to go to South Africa and spend time in Robben Island, and to see how forgiving he was and his ability to move from such a hard place and having been imprisoned to be so forgiving of his captors and, you know, people that didn't treat him so well, and his aim to unite all of South Africa. It was just beautiful. And like he used the Marion Williamson quote: "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond all measure. It is your light, not your darkness, that frightens you most." And that, when I heard that, it just resonated. And it took me ages to learn it wasn't him that said that. It was just part of his speech, because I was quite young when I heard that. But I think he really carried grace and dignity and inspired human being. Yeah.
No, absolutely. A fantastic role model. And I have to say, Nelson Mandela, I've always looked up to. And, maybe a more recent example of somebody who I think is absolutely fantastic is Jacinda Ardern.
Oh,
Um,
that's
you
amazing.
know, absolutely. Not only because, of everything she's accomplished, the glass ceilings that have totally been shattered, but also I think indirectly maybe, but she's actually a wonderful example of so many things you talked about tonight about, looking at things positively, networking, asking for help, but also, taking control of a situation and changing the optics when the world looks down on you and, thinks you're doing it totally the wrong way. And now everybody's trying to copy her with zero COVID.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Like you look, she changed the GDP, the measure of the country's well-being, how they're doing from GDP growth to actual well-being scores. She's really looking at how everyone in New Zealand is, and she actually says it doesn't matter how much money you've in the bank if you've got anxiety and depression and you're not happy in yourself. What's the point?
Mm.
So yeah, no, she's a great example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of conscious of time. We're kind of running near to the end, but there's definitely one more question I wanted to ask. Um, like they were yourself, Rosie, Anthony, always growing up, having your little competitive nature. Um, what would you say is probably the biggest, I don't want to say lesson, because I mean, obviously they're your siblings and you're going to, learn from each other and all that, but what is if there's a one moment that you have maybe of the three of you together where you can go, I learned this from my siblings. Do you have a particular moment that comes to mind when I'm putting that in your head?
I just always remember being very proud of my brother. A few weeks before he died, there was just the circumstances to do, little thing with kids, and I just thought the way he handled it and how beautiful and how forgiving and how guiding he was, like no one will ever know the kindness that was within him. And I really saw it. Like, and it's funny, like him here holding the Heineken cup is next to me and everything. But that's one of the moments of how kind and how forgiving he was. Um, he was in. I studied with Anthony. We studied a sports course, and like as they all said, I was the brains. I had it up here, and he had it here. Like he was like Neo. He could learn any sports skill. His amazing ability, his intelligence that he had to cognitively take something in and then transpire to a sports skill was amazing. And then Rosie's just always been inspiring because she just keeps raising, like the paradigm in Ireland is only shifting about women in sports now.
Mm.
Women were told not to stress themselves. Women, like when Rosie played, they had to buy their jerseys, they had to pay for their flights, um, whereas she just always kept going and she's so determined. Like she just has that determination. And the amazing thing that she does as teacher and as coach for other sports
Mm.
here, and she's just tireless about it, and she just really wants to keep getting that balance right with women, and men, the gender equality. She's very fair. Both of them are they were both Scorpions, so the strong leadership qualities. But when you say competitive between us, I wouldn't stand a chance with those two. I always said I wasn't competitive, and then I realized, oh, I'm just not as competitive as my brother and sister. It's they're both forces of nature in very different ways. Like it's well known the reason Anthony was so good at sports was Rosie kept beating him. She's a year and 3 days older than him, so she beat him all his life till he was about 14, I'd say. And it was just. But like I used to get killed in the crossfire. Like if you're playing tennis with them, they just use you as ball practice. I'm younger than them. It's just, I think what I learned most from my brother and sister is how to survive and stay alive. I'm here.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, just to echo what you're saying, Rosie is such a fantastic teacher, and she's taught me a couple of times in St. Anne's, and absolutely, she's a warrior at everything she takes on. She's absolutely incredible. But like yourself, you are also a warrior and fantastic and the best at what you do. So it's important to not overshadow that, an international rugby career is, one thing, but to be, so qualified and so good at what you do as well. It's all about the different reframe, not necessarily reframing, but the different spheres, and kind of comes back to the point I was making earlier on about, it mightn't be your traditional business you'd open up, but within that niche world, you are definitely by far one of the best at what you do. From anybody I've talked to, they always speak so highly of you.
Oh,
And yeah, no, it's the truth. And yeah, we were talking to about the women, issue of women in rugby with Sue there a couple of weeks ago, Sue Carty, and obviously she has the experience from the referee side and the player side, and yeah, she was talking also about the challenges from buying your own jersey. Something that wouldn't be thought of in the men's world, but it just shows how the game has progressed and how the world has progressed so much in the last few years.
when I got to witness that, a moment that I never thought I'd witness, and I just couldn't get over it, was a friend of mine was capped for Ireland back in the day when they didn't get caps. So there
Mm,
was a big, about 3 years ago, above in the Aviva, a big function for all the women who hadn't got their caps, a big full on.
mm, wow.
Yeah, and the IRFU, in fairness, are really making a conscious effort. It is one of the sports, and I thought that old boys club would never change, but
Mm,
they really, I'm proud to be a part of the rugby family, seeing the way they are embracing. And sure, even our very own Joy Neville,
yes.
she's amazing and she's brilliant. Um, so it's great to see we're moving in the right direction, so that my niece and my niece's friends have equal opportunities and equal choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I don't see any questions going into the chat, but if anybody does want to pop in and unmute, feel free. But definitely one thing that I'm definitely going to look into is getting a thank you, Mr. Google t-shirts, because I think that's one of the highlights out of this talk for sure. Um, and one other small thing, that we didn't talk about this beforehand, but the UL Entrepreneurship Society will be making a donation to the Orla Wildways
Oh,
fundraiser after this. So
thank
absolutely
you.
no problem. I'm only too happy to help out. So but absolutely, if we think of any other ways to help or collab, I'll shout out to you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Now I'm going to